Welcome back to the Cart Barn. Everyone, it's Masters Week, and if you're a golfer, this is a week everything slows down just a little bit. The noise fades, the schedule clears, and for a few days, the game feels the way it's supposed to. There's nothing like the Masters tournament. The same course, the same traditions, the same pressure, just different names trying to earn a place in history. So today, we're keeping this one simple. No guests, just Greg and I, guys who love the game, talking about what makes this week different. So, Greg, let me ask you this. What actually separates this tournament from the rest? Everybody says it's different, but why do you think that is?
No, I think obviously first major of the year holds something special to the golf community. You spend the off season kind of anticipating this week. The golf course, one of the five, six, eight best golf courses in the world. The the history of the event, going back to Bobby Jones creating an invitational, bringing together some of his friends and what it's evolved into. And then there's the lore of all the Masters moments. Going back to Gene Saracen making a two.
Yeah.
It just hits different. And I think we've alluded to it before. Just it's kind of the unofficial official opening of golf season uh,
Mm-hmm.
around the country. Even though down here in the South we play year round for the most part. You're sitting there in Maine and it's been snow on the ground since November. You're ready for this week. The golf courses have been closed. Most of the golf courses around the country that close in the winter are opening up. This time April 1st is kind of an unofficial start of the
Yeah.
season. So it all just kind of comes together and creates this moment. And the familiarity with the course, I think too, from television perspective, you know the Masters got Augusta National, whether you set foot on property or not, and the anticipation of Sunday back nine at Augusta on Sunday, where anything and everything has happened. So it's just a confluence of things that create this special moment for all of us.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the familiarity. It because everything is just familiar. It's the familiar grounds, the familiar music from on CBS. There's just a lot of things that are consistent, things from year to year that's just the same. Coverage, the music, the visuals, the azaleas. Yeah, it's I think that's a good way of putting it.
It's better now. Is is some of it maybe a little over the top? Calling the visitors patrons, stuff like that is it's a little maybe over the top to the average Joe out there, but it is just a special week. It's we anticipate it, and for a long time they didn't show the front nine at Augusta, so we've become more familiar with that front nine with the entirety of the course, not just the back nine. So
Yeah.
it's just a really fun week, and it's crazy because it gets here and then it's gone, and then you anticipate it, 365 days till the next Masters. So it's a
Absolutely.
fun week for
It's
everybody.
a fun week. Another thing that I think makes it big, and it's I guess it's part of that familiarity, but is the traditions. The green jacket, the champions dinner, all the stories that surround that. Amen corner. If you go there, you're talking about the food. It's cheap, iconic, part of the experience. Um, which one of those stands out most to you?
Uh, from the average fan, the food, you go there and you can get try doing that at the Final Four or at the Super Bowl or something else where you're paying, $18 for a beer, you know, 12 to $14 for a hot dog. You're paying $3 for chicken sandwich,
Yeah,
pimento cheese sandwich at $1.50, I think, for the pimento cheese. So if you like pimento cheese, I actually don't. So I
Well,
avoided that when I
if you
was there.
recall, yeah, last year when we had Stuart Sink on and we were talking about it was a pre-Masters episode and you asked him how many pimento cheese sandwiches he had eaten and it's only a handful, but what he liked was the chicken salad sandwiches,
Yep.
hundreds. That's funny. It sounded like
It's
that
just a
they
whole,
had plenty of them in the players' locker room too.
it's just a whole different vibe over there from your average tour stop. Uh, Everybody's polite over there, and for a reason, because if you're not polite in the gallery, they'll take you off property in a heartbeat. There's no cell phone, so the moments are captured in your mind, as opposed to everybody sitting there watching with their cell phones out, taking video of the shots. So it's cool. The grounds are immaculate. There's no trash. There's no cigarette butts on the ground. They have people literally going around sweeping up trash, picking it
Yeah.
up. The restrooms are immaculate. It's just crazy how it's this. It's almost a mystical type of experience, especially when you come on the property off Washington Road, which is just basically strip malls and businesses, and then
Oh
you
yeah.
you you turn into the facility, and it's just you can't believe that a couple hundred yards away is this thoroughfare with all these strip malls, and you've got this piece of property that's just amazing.
It's amazing. You're talking about no cell phones and whatnot. A friend of the podcast, John Morton, posted on X. He was there a Monday, had a post with just his little disposable camera, but he was ready for Augusta. Who even processes those anymore?
I guess you take them to the local pharmacy or to
Walgreens
the
or something?
local
Yeah.
retailer. I'm not going to give out any names for those places unless they want to sponsor the podcast, by
There
the
you
way.
go. Good move. Well, another thing that's interesting no other tournament has is the par three contest. The par three contest, it's just light fun. It's a different tone.
There are people who say that's the best part of the property, if you can believe it. And it's crazy beautiful. But the par three contest, it does hit a little difference. You can see the past champions, Ian Woosnam, Jack, Gary Player,
Yeah.
playing playing the par three, and something you don't get to see every day. The bad thing about the Wednesday par three though is that they close the regular the main course, I think at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. So you got to get there early to see anybody on on actually playing a practice round before the par three. So it's kind of a short day, if you want to go see the golf course. So
Yeah, there's a lot of um, family involvement in that, which is kind of interesting. You get to see the personal side of the players a little bit. They've got their families out there, the kids caddying, wearing the bibs. It's fun. And
it's a
one
cool
one
it's a cool
interesting
part of the
note too
tournament,
is
no
no
doubt.
winner of the par three has ever won the tournament that same
Tournament.
year.
Yeah, I'd like to see that change at some point. I'd like to see somebody just to bust the myth that you can't win the Masters if you win the par three. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't.
Yep, that would be cool.
But
Well,
I was fortunate. I got to cover I think four Masters right at the start of Stuart Stink's career,
hmm
and uh, I'll just tell a quick story here. The first one uh, I got to cover, it was a process to get a credential for the Masters, even back in '96. There wasn't email there, and there was some issues with us getting a credential, and it was going down to the wire, about whether we'd get to go. And you just don't walk into Augusta and get a hotel room. You have to plan quite a bit out, and so I didn't know if I was going to get a credential to cover it, and I'm like, we got to be there because it's the first person from Florence, Alabama to ever tee it up in the Masters.
Yeah,
Kind of got to document that for the newspaper.
sure.
And you know, finally we get the credential. Uh, Except it was just a grounds credential. It didn't give me access to the press room. Didn't and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff I'm not going to talk about going into it. But so I get the credential, and the credential actually was this little pink tin badge that just gave me gave me a grounds pass. And my friend, one of my best friends, Gareth Clary from the Mobile Press Register, he called it the pink badge of shame because here I was a writer, and I couldn't get in the press center. So, but the thing about it was, so I finally go through all this, 3 month worth of trial and tribulation to cover it, and Lisa Sink's pregnant with Reagan, who's due the week of the Masters. And so I was talking with Stuart. I'm like, what happens if Thursday young Reagan comes along? And he says, well, I won't play. Being there for Reagan's birth is more important. And so I'm like, crap, I've gone all through this, and there's a chance that you're not even going to tee it up. I'm like, wow, that's just crazy. Fortunately, Reagan emerged early in the week, and Stewart teed it up, and but I wore the pink badge of shame every day. Fortunately, I had a good enough relationship with Stewart that he would, I'd walk all 18 with him. When he came out of the press area, he would talk to me, and he wasn't going into the press room to talk because he didn't really, the first one he missed the cut, but he would take his time to come over and talk to me, get me my quotes. I would go back to the house we were staying at. I'd write my story. Then my friend Gareth would bring me the press quotes out of the press room, bring back, and then I'd write my game story off that. Um, and then after Stewart missed the cut Friday night, I was standing in line to eat. We were going to some place, I don't even know the name of it, and I had the pink badge of shame on, and some guy offered me $1,400 for it to get the weekend. And I'm like, I had so much hassle getting this. There's no way I'm giving it up to because he would be the guy I would sell it to somebody for $14, which was a lot of money for a writer for me money back in those days. I said he would be the guy that would, strip down naked, and they would have the badge number, and I would be like persona non grata. They might even have me killed and dumped in the river or something. I don't know. But that
That's
was my
fun.
first message. And the 4 times I went, I never got picked for the Monday lottery, which was a bummer.
Well,
Because
did
they
you
let
finally make it into the press room?
the next year after that, I had to send all my clips to Martha Gay, who ran the press room with an iron fist. I mean, if Martha liked you, you could get credentials. But after that first one, I was golden from there on out.
Well, that was before they built this new press facility too, right?
Yeah, it was, there's a hierarchy in the press over there. Like if you've covered it for a long time, you get in the old days, you would get a seat, a prime seat, uh, which Rick Riley always had his minions at Sports Illustrated, and he was next to Gareth Clary from the Mobile Press Register, and Gareth always had to move the minions out of his seat when he would come to work because they would all be Riley had them doing everything, follow this guy, follow that guy. So that was always an interesting story from Gareth. But
Hmm.
the rest of us, the first timers, the second timers, you came in and you had to kind of find a general seating area. And I always got stuck in the back. And this is before smoking policies and stuff. There's
Yep.
always a bunch of Asian writers and photographers. And man, they would chain smoke. And it was like a big cloud in the back where I would be sitting every day. But it was it's just it was fun to get to cover it.
Yeah.
Wish I was still covering it every year, but
Well, yeah, I've been there once. It was just a phenomenal day. Everyone that loves golf needs to go at least one time. You don't realize how tight everything is on that golf course. It's close, and the undulations you just don't really realize. Even as good as TV is now, you don't realize how undulating. I mean, from 10T down to the fairway, it's just a ski slope. But
you
let's move along into favorite Masters moments. What pick one or two moments that really stand out. What over time that of yours?
the obvious one is for me is Nicholas in '86. I was Nicholas was one of the guys you idolized growing up in my generation.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much now for newer players, but that's just the for me that's the iconic moment of the Masters, him winning in '86 and the charge. Lapping the field in '97 is, I don't know. I don't know how anybody separates themselves in professional golf the way he did uh, at the Masters that year. So those are probably the two I remember. And plus, I was on the grounds for the first three rounds of that tournament. So that was kind of neat. But you know, I tell everybody if you wanted to see Tiger in his prime, the best way to see it was on TV because you couldn't. They're 15, 20 deep around the first tee at Augusta when he would be teeing off.
Yeah. You
What
know,
about you?
it's always kind of special to capture the official starters that on Thursday morning, thinking all the way back to Gene Saracen and Sam Snead. I guess you're talking about the Masters in '86 and Jack's charge. Um, I didn't get to see that. I was actually playing in a college tournament at the U track in Tuscaloosa. That was back when they had the Alabama Intercollegiate, and you had junior colleges and mid level colleges, and Alabama and Auburn all participated in that, and that was a fun time. And I think we've kind of touched on that in one of our other episodes, but I was at the U track in Tuscaloosa, which no longer exists. It's now apartments, but playing um, when Jack made his comeback. So I did not get to catch that one live. And there's a couple of moments that stand out in addition to the ones that you just mentioned, and it's Phil Mickelson off the pine straw on 13 because prior to that, I think Norman was in there once and ended up laying up, and it seemed like there was someone else that had hit it up in there, and they kind of laid, or they went for. Oh, it was Sevy. Sevy tried to hit one and he hit it in the creek, basically
Hmm.
topped it. So I remember when Mickelson is in there on the year that he won his first one, and he hits this great shot out of there, but there had been a couple of, and probably more than that, but a couple of iconic moments out of the pine straw that didn't go so well. So those are a couple things that kind of stand out to me.
Okay. We haven't even mentioned Bubba's hooked
Oh yeah.
wedge. I mean, you know, I don't know how you hook a wedge as much as he did on that shot. Uh, some people say 40 yards. I don't know if it's 40 yards or 30, but it was quite the shot. To pull that off. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. Well, I saw Bubba play in one of Stewart's tournament at Turtle Point when he'd have people come in. I saw Bubba at Turtle Point, and man, it's really something when you play when you watch these guys play a golf course that you've played a lot, and you kind of know where your ball ends up on that golf course, and you compare it to where Bubba hit it. It's a different deal.
It's That's reminds me. Turtle Point is obviously one of the top courses in the state. It's usually in the top five. Uh, but at that event, 11 is a par five sharp dog leg
Mm-hmm.
right, and there's trees and a little creek at the corner. And I asked Stewart. you know, why the Turtle Point has kind of stood the test of time with the new equipment and everything. And he's like, yeah, I used to just fly it over the corner there, and I'm like, why, how, and why is it so much more difficult now? And he said, well, that tree at the corner was, about waist high when I was growing up, and now it's, probably 70 feet tall. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just, Bubba did not. This is a little off topic, but Bubba did not remember playing Turtle Point in the SEC tournament. It's another one of my lost stories that I never got to write because he came back to Turtle Point for that event, and it's like, oh, you tell me about playing here in the SEC championship. He said, I don't even remember it. So,
Wow.
but what's your favorite holes at Augusta?
Yes. Now, that's a good question. I really like 12, little par three. There's just something about that little hole that is kind of cool. And a lot can
That's
happen.
Yeah, we saw it this past weekend at the Anwa when Astros Tally made seven there. Uh, Jordan made seven there, I think. Uh,
Yeah, that was during the Jordan collapse. But yeah,
it's a great hole. No, no, for be so short. Uh, it's a great hole. I love three. I think it's just a tremendous short par four. And again, if you don't realize how steep the plateau is walking up to that green, and the spot where they put the pin on the front left, I mean, the average guy would probably not could make more less than 10 on that hole from 100 yards. It seems like it's an impossible shot to get close. And
yeah,
Roy made it look easy last year. But I really like the stretch of three, four, and five. Uh, Four is an incredibly difficult long par three.
it sure is.
And when you think about the the area that these guys have to hit it to, the shells to get the ball close to the hole, or it's going to run away 40 feet, 50 feet. Uh, it's just incredible. And again, if you've never really been there in person to
Hmm.
see the green complexes, they're just insane. TV will never be able to do it justice.
Well, what's your personal master's routine, Greg?
Get up, turn on the TV, look at the app. There's no try not to try to avoid all distractions throughout the day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Back when I
Nothing.
was going into an office, I would usually take my iPad, put it on my desk, and I had the app going, and or playing TV on there or whatever. But my this to me, and I'm doing it right now. I've got my coffee in my master's cup. I've got the Paramount Plus on, live on the range. I've got the app over here where I can look at some stuff. Um, I just love this week, and all the coverage live from is always great. But I really like the on the range stuff. When I go to an event, that's I just almost as soon sit there and watch them practice as I had to go out and watch them play. But
Yeah,
do you
no,
sit and watch it start to finish on Sunday?
as much as I can.
Yeah,
It's one of those no distraction days, and doesn't sound like you're going to get much work done this week if you've got all that stuff going.
yeah, that's true.
But it is such a great week. It's kind of like it makes you want to get out and play, but then you don't want to leave the TV
Yeah.
to go spend 4 hours playing.
Well, what are you looking most forward to this year?
Back nine on Sunday. Last year, and Brandon Chambly was talking about this last night on the live from the Masters. He's made a good point that it could have been the best Masters ever, given the the tremendous swings in momentum. Roy looks like he's got it in the hand, then he doesn't, then he does, then he doesn't. and then ends up in a playoff, and it's just kind of crazy. But I would tend to agree. Last year's it'd be gonna be hard to top last year's just from the momentum swings on the back nine.
Yeah. Well, real quick, who's your favorite?
I'm kind of leaning towards Shoffley. Um, Playing
Xander.
fairly
Okay.
well. He manages the golf course pretty well. I'm gonna say it's his time to put on the green jacket on Sunday. How about you?
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's hard to go against Scotty Scheffler right now. I don't believe Rory is going to do that well. I'm kind of thinking that somebody like Ludwig Oberg or Chris Gotterup, and I know that Chris, this is his first time. He's already won twice on tour. He hits it a long way, and I think his game sets up really well for Augusta, and so I'm picking one of those guys to be really high at the top, if not at the top. He'd be the first one since Fuzzy, I think, to win in his first event.
That, I think you can get him at a pretty good price if you're into betting. I think he was down there around 40, 50 to 1 if you're so inclined.
Yeah.
I think I think it's a small pool of players that can win. Um, it's a small field, but there is a small. I think experience really does matter, and I think Rory could go either way. He he's either freed himself up now to really, maybe go on a win 3 out of 5 or something like that, or kind of, relaxed. I've hit my goal, and
He's spending 50 grand on wine for the dinner. He's not going to win this week.
that's a good point. What are your thoughts? Like, I keep thinking Bryson could win one.
He can. He sure can.
He was right there last year.
He
Had a
was.
really
Yeah.
good chance. But I'm going to stick with my Shoffley pick, even though he'll disappoint me in the end, I'm sure. But
Well, so if you've made it this far listening, put something in the comments who you pick and who you're going for, who you think's going to win. But Greg, that's probably a good place for us to wrap this episode up. I know everybody's going to be wanting to watch the festivities and the tournament this week, so just thought we would spend a few minutes talking about the Masters and pay homage to this great event. And we appreciate everyone listening.
yeah, this is like, for golfers, this is like the first week of March Madness, where everything kind of shuts down for March Madness,
Yeah.
first weekend. So, and this week we get 7 days of it, 4 days of tournament, and 3 days of lead up and over analysis, under analysis. So it's just always a great week. So we just
Yep.
thought we would let our listeners in on a little bit of insight from two rank amateurs.
Yep. Well, thanks again for listening. Be sure to catch us again next week as we bring you another edition of the Cart Barn Podcast.